city deserves safer water year-round. Our people deserve it, and our kids deserve it. I have 2 boys here representing us right now. They're also athletes in Frisco. We want to be the city for athletes. But what do athletes depend on games? They need water, they need hydration throughout the game. And if we can't provide safer water for them, then what are we doing trying to be the best city for athletes and best city for citizens, for families who live here? This could affect many of us. It has affected many of us. We've had rashes, we have GI issues, and I'm one of them. And I really would not have believed it until it actually happened to me. So, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so this item is on tonight's agenda, so it's not something that we can deliberate in the public. It's citizen input is your concerns. But I can tell you that we did spend a lot of time, I believe it was the last council meeting, so the April 3rd council meeting. It's roughly a 2-hour discussion about the water quality. That video is actually online, so you can go back and look at our agendas and watch the whole discussion. And I can tell you, council is looking at the issue very deeply, and we're going to continue to monitor that. So it's going to be part of our monthly reports from our public works department as far as the test and sample size and progress. So it'll be an ongoing discussion with the city council throughout the year.
Thank you. I'd also like to see more transparency in the independent testing that City of Frisco does, because I know City of Frisco does do independent testing on water quality. And I'd like more transparency in seeing those results.
And they'll be published every month in our report section, so we agree on that. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Anyone else here that would like to speak during citizen input?
I would. I have a blue card. Do I need to bring that to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can just give it to our city secretary after you speak.
All right. Thank you, guys. First off, my name is Jesse Rubens. I'd like to start off by thanking each of you for what you do for the city. I know it must not be easy as a city leader, spending time away from your family and friends to focus on our needs. So I do thank you for serving for us, and I'd also like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. So I'd like to expand a little bit on what she just spoke on. I know it's not on the agenda, but I'm not a professional speaker, as you can tell, nor am I an expert on the specifics of water treatment. However, I did attend the last city council meeting that you referenced, where the North Texas Municipal Water District spoke. So I'd like to keep this brief by pointing out a few differences in what the NTMW had to say versus what our water expert Bob Bocock had to say at the Erin Brockovich meeting. So based on the content alone, I found a big discrepancy between the two. So just to give you all a little bit of information, Bob Bocock is a water expert, engineer, and water resource manager, and has been in the industry for over 35 years. He pointed out that you can't use chloramine in Texas. You can't just use chloramine in Texas. So in order to use chloramine, the water district has to apply for an exemption because it's a weaker disinfectant. So you almost have to double the dose in Texas for it to be effective, which is what easily leads to nitrification and forms of toxic chemicals if it's not properly maintained. So in comparison, when Mr. Keating, when you spoke and asked the NTMWD about how regulations are set, they answered very vaguely, saying that they use a scientific method, and they gathered all the scientists and doctors in a room and discuss it, taking into consideration the cost. So if you ask me, I would say that that's a workaround answer, using like fluffy words instead of providing detailed facts on how the regulations are set. They also didn't disclose the fact that you have to get an exemption in order to use chloramine in Texas. So I'd like to point out that the NTMWD actively stated over and over again that high elevated levels for long exposure periods does lead to health problems. Billy George, the Assistant Deputy Director of the NTWD, stated, and I quote, "We have citizens that are exposed to very harmful levels for longer periods of time." But he went on to explain how the uses of averages have in the past masked out those data points, and I believe he went on to say that they no longer do that. But that just goes to show how they use certain procedures to cover certain stuff up. He even at one point referenced the cost analysis based on, quote, bad parts of town. These are the water experts that we're entrusting. So in comparison, Bob explained that the regulations were based on studies done in the 70s, they were improved upon in the 80s, and it was written and formed in 1996. Most of the studies are at least 15 years old and reference drinking 75 parts per billion, not the standard that's set at 80 parts per billion, which had marked increases in miscarriages in the first trimester and low birth weight in the second and third trimester. So what's important to take away from that is that the Water District wants to talk about 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 plus years. They don't want to talk about how a fetus can be affected in the first trimester, a matter of months, not years. So I'd like to finish up by stating how Bob stated that trihalmethanes are listed as air regulations and are a toxic indoor air pollutant. They're not actually regulated underwater. So if the smell is present, that means that trihalmethanes are also present. Mike Brickman, the Deputy Director of Operations at the NTMWD, got pretty excited when he said that it gives me, quote, "It gives me confidence in the water supply when I can smell the chlorine residuals. I know the water is safe for me and my family." To me, that doesn't sit right. The Water District went on to tell us that if we're experiencing a problem, the responsibility is on us to go to a doctor and get it fixed, and not on them to fix the cause of the problem. So my point here today is I hope that you all take into consideration that the NTMWD has vested interest both politically and financially in keeping certain information private and reducing the transparency given to the public. I would hope you would be able to see through some of the vague statements that they gave that night and do a little research on your own, considering you and your families, as well as myself, are showering in the very water that we're speaking. So thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during citizen input? And then we'll move us back to our report section.